Hello, everybody. We are back, and let's talk about the latest edition of the World Shot Put Series. Happened tonight, May 16th, even though I'm now recording this after midnight on the 17th, in South Carolina. Drove up here 6 hours from Florida today and driving back 6 hours tomorrow, but golly, it was worth it because seeing that product in person today was so much fun. Just to be clear right off the bat, this is not This Week in Throws. That'll still be coming out later this week because, good Lord, did the Doha Diamond League give us some stuff to talk about, as well as NCAA Conference Championships. But we're going to get into all that later this week. This is just going to be a hopefully briefer video, just talking about version 2 of the World Shot Put Series. There were 2 big changes for this one. Well, I guess 3 technically. The most obvious one is the venue. The last edition was at Drake Relays, one of the most historic track meets in the country, has a super rich history of throwing. And, Ryan's been there a lot the last couple years. He got inducted into their Hall of Fame that weekend, so seemed like a really good fit. This one was not at a track meet at all. It was at Sorinex Summer Strength, which is for those of you that don't know, it's a strength training weightlifting company. So they host this Summer Strong event every year. And so this was more in line with what you've heard a lot of shot putters talk about in recent years, where they want to more align shot put with strongman events and other kind of weightlifting people who they feel understand throwing more than distance runners, is what you've heard a lot the last couple years. And so this was really a huge step towards that. And it was a lot of fun. The second big change for this one was that there were women competing. The field as a whole was a little smaller than we saw at Drake. For the men, you had Nick Ponzio, Josh Awatunde, Daniel MacArthur, Roger Steen, and Payton Otterdahl. And then for the women, you had Chase Jackson and Abby Moore. So the elite field was only 7 athletes this time, when I think it was 9 at Drake. But I mean, the competition was still just a lot of fun. And for the women, they were throwing an 8-pound shot instead of a typical 4 kilo / 8.8 pound shot. And the idea there is basically just that for the discus, the women throw half the weight that the men do and throw pretty comparable distances. But in the shot, you usually see men throw a lot further and women throw a little more than half the weight. So evening that out to 8 pounds and 16 pounds would hopefully put them on a level playing field. And that's because the men and the women competed at the same time. So Chase Jackson I think she beat Nick Ponzio and Josh Awatunde maybe on misses. I think they all went out at 68 feet. And then the final big change was the introduction of the money ball, which was basically, it's a lighter shot put. That for the men, it's 15 pounds. For the women, it's 7.5 pounds. And basically you can use that on your second throw. And then if you miss, you're done. You don't get to use a challenge throw, is my understanding of it at least. So we only saw that used a couple times, but Daniel MacArthur, Payton Otterdahl, and Roger Steen all used that really well. And I'll let Ryan Crouser explain a little bit more of the rationale behind introducing this.
Yeah, so the money ball was actually Roger Stone's idea, discus thrower that I trained. So he was like, man, you'll have to throw a light ball on one. So that was his idea. And I kind of was like, and then I thought about it, I was like, man, that would be a pretty good idea because it's low cost in terms of the time spent dedicated to it, but it's really engaging to the crowd. It's fun for the athletes, and it adds a big strategy component. So that's one thing that I don't want to say is missing in shot put, but when you have that strategy at play, and then money ball is probably the biggest strategy component you could add, and then you get one, when do you use it? You saw a lot of athletes go down still having their money ball. So that was kind of shows you like, maybe be a little looser with the money ball, because it's a huge tool. And so it just adds that component. Some people throw the money ball a little better, some maybe a little worse. But it's when I approach the whole event, it's track and field views shot put like at the same time that 6 other events are going on. But when it's a standalone, adding a simple thing like this, it's straightforward, easy to understand, but adds a ton of entertainment value. I think it's a win-win. The athletes like it, the fans love it, and it gives a big key moment for the fans to really engage and be like, oh, he's throwing the money ball, the big gold shot up here. So I'm a fan of it. I think the athletes were a fan of it as well.
How heavy is the money ball?
So it's 15 pounds for the men, 7.5 for women.
Gotcha.
So 1 pound lighter or proportional for the women, or they're throwing exactly half the men on the 8-pound shot and the 7.5.
And the money ball is another thing that, like, I was kind of skeptical when Ryan was first talking about it, like before the competition. Like the same way that like I talked about how I was like skeptical about like, oh, like the challenge flag and the chains or whatever at Drake. I was like, I don't know, those might be like kind of cheesy. And I was kind of thinking the same thing about the money ball. And then it was just really, really fun. And it's like it's another like strategy piece to it as well. And that's where like Daniel MacArthur really excelled. Like he ended up finishing 3rd because he made very good use of his money ball and his challenge throw. So that's another thing that just kind of like ups the intrigue, as opposed to just you have 2 throws, can you clear the bar? Like there's a little bit of the throwers have to do a little bit of thinking. So that's something that I think makes WSPS as special as it has been through 2 editions. Let's get into the actual competition now, because if you thought Drake was good, like this somehow topped it. So for Drake, you had Roger Steen and Trip Pippery, both throwing further than they'd ever thrown in competition before. If I'm remembering correctly, they both used their challenge throws at 72 feet, cleared it, both of them. Then they both cleared 73 feet as well. So that was just insane. But if there's anything that you kind of were left a little dissatisfied about, was the fact that it was decided on count back. It was decided on number of misses. And basically, we got to a similar situation in this one where you had Payton Otterdahl and Roger Steen. Came down to them as the final 2. And they both cleared 71 feet. And then they decided to pass on 72 feet, go straight to 73 feet. And so then that already like ups the stakes a little bit, because they're this late in the competition. And they're just passing up 2 feet now. And so they go, and Roger had already used his challenge at this point. So he throws twice, he misses, he's done. Payton threw twice, and he missed both of his attempts, but he was ahead by 2 misses at the same distance. So he could have just walked away there. Instead, he decided to throw his challenge flag. And so the challenge counts as 2 misses. So he was 2 misses ahead of Roger. So if he missed this, they'd go into a throw-off. If he made it, he won. If he didn't do anything, he won. But Payton Otterdahl said, no, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to give the fans what they came to see. So he takes his challenge throw at 73 feet. He comes up a little short. And then we go to a throw-off, because they were both at 73 feet, or they both cleared 71 feet, and they both had 5 misses. So it was a dead heat. And so you get to the throw-off, and they do a coin toss to determine who goes first. Payton called the coin toss because he has the higher world ranking. He won the coin toss. He opted to go second. So Roger comes out and throws like 72, 11 and 3/4 or something. Like it was just a hair. Like the distance didn't matter for this one, because it's just, do you throw further than the other person? but it was just like the slimmest of margins under 73 feet. Then Payton steps in the ring and he throws literally the exact same distance. We don't have like laser measurements out there or anything. So I don't know. Maybe Roger was ahead by like a centimeter or vice versa. But with the eye test, it was too close to call. And when I was talking to Ryan after, he kind of made it sound like they didn't really have a plan for a multi-round throw off. So they were kind of just like, all right, let's go again. So they did the same exact thing. And so then Roger comes out, and this time he goes like 73, probably like 3 or 4 inches, I think. So he clears 73. Huge moment. How does Payton respond? And Payton launches it. And he goes, I think this throw is at least 74 feet. The picture I'm showing right now, the tape is at 73 feet, and the pin is where this throw landed. Payton's official PB is 74 feet, 1 1/3 inches. I definitely think this is a similar situation to what we saw from Roger and Tripp and Drake, where this is better than Payton Otterdahl has ever thrown in competition before. And just another thing that I find really interesting about this is that, like, people are throwing so well here, so late into the competition. Like, I think Roger took like 14 throws tonight by the end of the throw-offs. And I think Payton was at 11 or 12, but their last throws were their best ones. So it's just interesting seeing like how the fatigue and basically Roger threw 2 competitions in the span of an hour, and it didn't really have that significant of effect on him. And he actually did say something really interesting about this when I spoke with him after the competition.
We'll warm up more. So like we try to plan for that. So like
Yeah.
some of the earlier throws, like, you know, unfortunately I didn't get over the line in a couple of earlier throws, but
Yeah.
like it's not as much warm ups as in like the regular 6 throws. We take a couple more warm ups to like get going right away. I'm gonna get better at more of that mentality of getting into it sooner, but like the harder warm up throws I'll take, the easier I'll get like into more competition throws sooner.
Yeah. So this edition of the WSPS was an improvement from Drake, I think. I think the money ball works really well. The actual competition was more exciting. I do like the implementation sounds weird. I like the inclusion of women in the field. Another thing that Ryan shared with me in our interview was he mentioned how like Drake was supposed to be like a proof of concept. And it's like that one was working at a track meet. This one now shows that it can work away from track meets. And I don't believe it didn't sound like there were any plans to host more WSPS events in 2025, because Ryan was saying he needs to get back to actually just being an athlete and not a commissioner, meet director, social media manager, all the hats he's been wearing for the last like 3 months. And he wasn't competing tonight. I think I kind of buried the lead on that, but he wasn't competing tonight. And, you know, at Drake in the WSPS, he went out at 70 feet, which was pretty uncharacteristic of him. And he was only doing static starts. And then for either Saturday or Sunday, when they had the like actual like Drake Relays World Athletics ratified shot put competition, he scratched that. So I asked him about that, and he said it's kind of the same elbow injury he was dealing with last year that pushed his outdoor opener all the way until Olympic trials. And he said he's not throwing right now, so that sucks. I mean, with the career he's had, like he's been very open about the fact that like he's not young anymore, and throwing 75 feet consistently for years and years is very taxing on the body. So I like understand. Well, no, I don't understand because I don't know what it's like to be Ryan Crouser. But, you know, the things, it's kind of just like the realities of being an athlete at that state is like sometimes these injury things come up. So as a fan of the sport, we just got to be like, He said he's working with his doctor, so I'm like, I hope you have a good doctor. Because we need to see Ryan Crouser throwing 23 meters again. He didn't throw 23 last year. That's such a down year for him. It's crazy. But yeah, WSPS, I'm so glad that I was able to come to this one because it was so much fun. The crowd there was awesome. And like Ryan said, like Drake was a track and field crowd. This was, for the most part, not a track and field crowd. And they were as engaged and excited about every single throw as you could possibly hope they would be. Like, watch the stream is linked in my bio. Like, just go back and watch the stream, and just hear the crowd. Like, it was also probably a little bit of a smaller crowd, just given the type of venue it was, I think, than Drake was by the look of it. But I mean, they were just as loud and they were just as engaged, and it was really, really special, and it's fun to see shot put kind of given this light that it deserves. All right, well, I think I actually did a decent job of keeping my thoughts kind of concise in this one, so I'm going to wrap it up now. Like I said, stay on the lookout for This Week in Throws coming out in a couple days, because This Week in Throws was pretty wild. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Also, all these videos, I started a podcast feed last week. So the Poly Throws podcast on Spotify. It's basically all these same videos just going up on Spotify. So I know a lot of my videos are longer. So if you feel like not needing to have the YouTube app open for all of that, you can listen to them on Spotify instead. So yeah, I'll link that in the bio. I'll link to the live stream in the bio or in the description. And that is all I've got for you for now. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Polly Throws on Instagram, P. Hoff Mahoney on Twitter. And I'll see you guys next time.